Well, welcome back. It's been a while. Haven't done a video since, well, back around Christmas. And, well, I've been kind of busy, and as many of you know, I have a full time job. Horses are just a hobby that I do in my spare time. And my job takes me away from home for, a few days at a time. And I work anywhere up to, usually only about 60, but sometimes as much as 70 hours in a week. And lately, well, as many of you in North America know, there's been some absolutely ridiculous weather. Either a lot of snow in some places, or around here it's been extreme cold. On the few days I've had off, it's been like minus 35. I haven't really felt like coming out to play with the horses because I don't even live here, so it's a bit of a drive to get out here. So, unfortunately, it has been, we haven't even seen these horses in probably a month. Unfortunate. Anyhow, recently I was at a little lecture. Actually, I attended a clinic as well and stuff. And the lecture was on saddle fitting, and we were talking about saddles and such. And I'm not going to go into the details of saddle fitting because that's certainly not my area of expertise. And, it's not something I know a great deal about, except that I do know it is important, and that you can tell with very little knowledge that whether or not the saddle is fitting at least reasonably well. But we're not going to go into that. What I am going to talk about is something that I talked about in a video a number of years ago, but I thought it was worth revisiting because it was a subject that actually came up in this lecture on saddle fitting. And they were talking about bareback pads and bareback riding and such. And well, years ago, I actually crunched some numbers. Now, I took the weight of that saddle plus my weight, and then I took and divided that by the contact area of that saddle. Now, the important thing with the saddle to note is there's no weight in the center. It's all on the outer areas, back. You don't want any weight on the spine or the vertebrae anywhere on the horse. That's an important thing to know. But anyhow, I did a rough calculation of, the contact area of the saddle weight, and my saddle. And then I did a comparison. Now, this wasn't a real scientific one or anything, but I did an approximation of the contact area when I'm riding bareback, my backside and my thighs on the horse, the areas that are going to carry most of the weight. And I compared the two, and the numbers were actually quite astonishing. Even with something like a bareback pad or something, it doesn't displace your weight very much, and your contact area is actually quite small when you're riding bareback. And the difference between saddle and bareback is about 15 to 1. Now, like I said, I didn't do it real scientific or anything, so my numbers might not have been very accurate. But the difference was big enough that even if my numbers were out by a fair bit, it is still a notable difference between saddled and bareback. Now, a lot of people like to think, well, bareback's better. It's more natural. Well, there's a lot of things that are natural that will kill you. So the word natural doesn't really mean much. Not only that, but riding a horse isn't really natural to begin with. So natural doesn't mean much. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not against bareback riding. There's nothing like the feeling of a horse underneath you with nothing in between. It feels pretty good. But sometimes you're not really doing the horse much of a favor by doing that. A lot of people think it's better for the horse because it's more natural, that sort of thing. No, it's not better for the horse. Like I said, the difference between bareback and saddle with the weight displacement, it's about 15 to 1. It's significant. Wouldn't be quite that high with, say, an English saddle or an Aussie saddle. The contact area is a little smaller on them because of their design. But it would still be at least 10 to 1 or more difference. So, bareback riding, as good as it feels, isn't really all that good for the horse. And, if you're not a particularly good rider, all it would take is, one wrong landing and your, cheekbone to hit the vertebrae, and you could cause your horse a lot of pain, if not permanently injure it. Not a good thing. Far better off and safer using a saddle. And for people like me that don't have a particularly good sense of balance, a saddle is better for me anyhow because I'm less likely to fall off the horse. But I just thought I'd throw that little comparison out. Again, a lot of people don't seem to know the difference, don't notice it, don't think about it, but I actually crunched some numbers on it. And like I said, wasn't scientific or anything. The numbers might have been a little bit inaccurate, but even if they were, the difference between the two was so huge that you can't ignore the fact that taking the time to put a saddle on your horse, a whole lot better for your horse. If you care about your horse, put a saddle on when you go riding. Okay, have a good day.